Hello and welcome to the Say It Sister podcast. I'm Lucy and
I'm Karen, and we're thrilled to have you here. Our paths crossed years ago on a shared journey of self-discovery, and what we found was an unshakable bond and a mutual desire to help others heal and live their very best lives.
For years we've had open, honest and courageous conversations, discussions that challenged us, lifted us and sometimes even brought us to tears. Now we want to share those conversations with you. We believe that by letting you into our world, you might find the courage to use your voice and say what really needs to be said in your own life.
Whether you're a woman seeking empowerment, a self-improvement enthusiast, or someone who craves thought-provoking dialogue, join us as we promise to bring you real, unfiltered conversations that encourage self-reflection and growth.
So join us as we explore, question and grow together. It's time to say it, sister.
Welcome to Say It Sister, the place where we get real about what it means to be a woman, a leader and a human navigating the world as it is and as we want it to be. Today we're diving into a topic that touches almost every woman I know, ageism. The pressure to be older when we're young, to stay young when we're older, to shrink ourselves to fit someone else's idea of what's right, and that includes image and status. But what if we stopped performing our age and we started to own it? What if your age isn't a problem to fix, but a source of power to reclaim?
It's a weird one, this, because when I was younger, I just always wanted to be older. And then I think I've got this stereophonics line that always comes into my head. We'll always be 23. And in my head, I feel like I have stuck at 23 mentally for a long time. But actually right now, I'm feeling like a grown woman. And I'm really embracing the age that I'm at and not really caring too much. But I'm also at the age where I'm not too old, but I'm also not too young. I think I'm in a bit of a sweet spot. So yeah, I'm embracing it, but I do wonder what it's going to be like when I hit that 55, 60, 65 mark, whether I'll be treated in a almost dismissive way as the same when I was maybe 18 or 19, when I was dismissed for being too young. What are your thoughts? Where is it with you?
I don't know. I do feel very young at heart in a lot of ways, and yeah, I've got this sort of energy inside. Even though sometimes I'm really tired, there's an energy in me that just, I don't know, gets me sort of excited and interested. I don't have it. I don't like the way I used to live my life. I used to be so much more out in the world, and I'm not now that I'm a mum of a 6-year-old. I'm not so much. So, but I'm recently starting to feel that rising again, and I'm starting to do more things for myself, and go to gigs, and realize that I've still got it. It's like a feeling of, oh, I've still got it. So clearly, there's been some shifts and changes for me. From that rock and roll girl who was out partying and doing things and traveling the world to much more sort of home-based these days. And I'm like, has that got something to do with age? And I always ask the question when I have conversations with my friends. I'll say, do I think that because of my age, or is it really happening? Like, is the world getting crazier? Are we going backwards? Is it dangerous to go into the cities? Is it because I'm older? Because I never thought about that before when I was younger. Or is it genuinely because that's true? And I have so many debates about this, and I think it's probably a bit of both, to be honest. And that's interesting for me because it's like, oh, there's a shift. It's like getting older. You start to notice these sort of different pauses and acceleration sometimes, and then they're pulling back. And obviously the years are ticking by. I'm 50 soon. Next year. What I know about myself is I've always lived a year ahead. I've always been like, I'm this age, and then someone will say, no, you're not. You're like a year younger than that. And I'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. So clearly I've always wanted to get somewhere. I've always wanted to, arrive, and I've spent a lot of my life sort of chasing that. Yeah, just a lot of thinking for me. I've been really, really, really pondering it because I've generally been I've been lucky, I think. I've been accepted by people. I've built good relationships, and those relationships have taken me through all the different careers I've had and all the different clients and jobs that I've had. I can't imagine being turned away from somewhere because of my age. That would be, but I know that happens. And so this is the bit that we need to talk about, because we have our own personal experiences, and then there's what goes on in the world. So let's go deeper today, and let's see what we might even learn on this podcast. When did you first become aware of your age being seen as a problem? either too young or too old?
I think there was not so much career wise, although there were certain jobs that I was blocked from for being told that I was not experienced enough or I wasn't strategic enough, or the big word that always sticks with me, I didn't have gravitas.
Oh,
And at the time, I was like, well, I even questioned, what does that word even mean? And they weren't able to explain it, so I just dismissed it. But I felt a real jarring because I'm like, this is actually what you're saying is I'm too young. And actually, now I look back at what I know now, the role was traditionally held by people in their probably in their 40s, and there was I at 27, 28 going for the job. And I can see now, actually, I'm a lot wiser, have more experience, I'm a lot more level, a lot more strategic. So actually, it was probably that I was lacking those qualities. However, if you'd put me in that role, I'd have learnt them pretty damn quick, because that's the whole point of experience. When you're in it, you learn it. So I think there was that. But for most of my life, it's been my personal life decisions that have always had age come into it, whether it's like, oh, you're too young to be getting married, or oh, you're the first in our friendship group to be having a child, or like, you're having a young child. Yeah, I went to the school yard and I was actually the same age as everybody else. Or you're too young to be doing XYZ. So it's other people's judgments on what I should be doing at my age, whether it was at 18, whether I'm 48, whatever it is. And it's because they're judging me based on the decisions that they made and their moral code and their belief system about what you should be doing at that age. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with me. But every time I had that when I was in my younger years, I question myself, am I too old? Am I too young? Is this right for me? And it's only later on that I'm like, yeah, but that's your stuff. You go deal with that. I'm living my life. So that, I think that's where it came from. And I guess I was always mature for my age, and I always hung around with older people. So when I decided that at 26 I wanted to have a baby, my mum had her children at 23 and 25, and I think she was classed as an old mum back then. So being a mum at 26 didn't really, encounter my head that I was too young. But because of my social circle, where there was a lot more career women, it was the women that were judging me. But I think it was more about them thinking, should I be having kids now? So yeah, that's where it is for me. What
mm.
about you? What
Well, there's
about
a lot of
your
wisdom in that
experience?
piece already that's making me think. But you know, I think my whole thing is I've always sort of had to really sort of work on my confidence and my self-esteem, always from being a little girl, and work on my voice as well. Like, it's not come easy for me. So I've always had to do that work. I didn't really have the words for it before, and now I do. But definitely, I've always pushed myself forward. Like, I think I had this desire to escape my surroundings as a child and to leave where I grew up. I didn't want to live there and I didn't feel like I belonged there. So there was a fire in me that pushed me outside of what I was actually feeling on the inside, like a force, really. I see it in my daughter as well. And it's like, I can't describe it. In some ways, it could be my ego, but it's actually pushing me forward in a really good way, because I always wanted to see the world and I wanted to have experiences, and I always knew I wanted to work and be, I always was very creative, and I was like, ideas like would always be coming through. And I had that from being really, really young. And as I then went through education, I was trying to find the right thing for me, and I found PR, which was perfect for me actually, on so many different levels. And then when I was in my mid-20s towards the late 20s, I ended up working for an agency called Propaganda, and GHD was the brand that landed on my desk in a way. And it wasn't that well known, but it had a small, very small cult following. And what I started to see for that brand was very different to what was happening. And so I went into the CEO, who I'm still friends with, and said, Julian, I don't agree with this. I mean, I look back now and I go, so what was that fuel that did that for me? And it was a sense of, this is not right. Like, this is just not the way it should be done. And he said, I've been thinking the same thing. He said, okay, well, over to you. You're going to now head that account up. I'm going to make you. It didn't happen immediately in that first meeting, actually. And then he came back and said, I want to make you head of consumer PR. I think I was 27 at the time. So the current role I had was a senior account manager role, and I became like head of a department. And he said, grow your own team, do it your way. And I've talked about this before. And that was almost like I went into shock, I think, to be honest, because I never went in wanting something like that. I just had to speak up for what I thought was right. Then I went away, I was like, oh my, and then I started to freak out on the inside, like massive freak out. So there was no ageism there in that career context. It was actually the opposite, because I got then sort of like put into the spotlight. But what happened with the people that were around me, that were established, that were already working at the agency, was they then sort of looked up and said, hold on, she's 27.
Yeah.
So I got it from the sidelines in a way. And they were very strategic in trying to take me down, which didn't work in their favor, actually. It backfired because I was really, really knew what to do. I just had this vision and I took it forward. But it was what was going on the inside of me. That was the bit where the ageism piece, or the not feeling good enough. I think I'm going to go back to, I'm only 27. What do I know about leading teams? What do I know about leadership? I've managed people, but I don't know how to lead a department. What do I know about, I know what to do in my job, and I'm brilliant at my job. It was literally like, I really did go into a place where I was like, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And then every day I'd show up and do what I was doing and do a great job.
And that's the bit where I said, you know, you only learn by actually being in there and doing it. So,
I mean, I would
and that's
never.
why you were a brilliant leader, and you learned on the job. You trusted your gut.
I would never have gone for that role or that job unless it hadn't been presented to me. Like, it had to be handed to me. And I feel like in my life, that's what's happened for me a lot. People have handed me things and I've taken it and gone, right, okay. And then I've had to do my own personal work on the inside to say, you are good enough, you can do it. And working with coaches, you know, now I can do that stuff for myself. But at the time I needed some exterior things. So there was ageism happening from the sidelines, and probably some ageism happening on the inside of me from myself, you know, my self-talk, which has been brought up. I suppose really I picked up on that from the systems around me, not necessarily my boss who was head of, you know, who was in charge of the agency, but that was around me. You just didn't do that at those ages. So yeah, I experienced it young, but I overcame it. That's the piece that I want people to know. You can overcome, you know, imposter syndrome or ageism or whatever it is, that whatever label we're going to give it.
I think, but I had a lot of experiences where I felt this pressure to act in a certain way in certain environments to fit in with the age, and particularly around work, because I was usually the youngest. Not only was I usually the only or very few women in that environment, I was always the youngest woman. And so there was the age thing and the gender thing going on, and I couldn't really separate the two because I was just me. But I always felt like I had to almost act up and speak very professionally. I'd come up with this language that and all these acronyms that they weren't my language. It wasn't me. But it was how I would be taken seriously, and I used to like dress the part and be very conservative in the clothes that I would wear, and almost like try not to be too sexual in my clothing, because I was at those child rearing years. You know, I had all the curves in the right places, but I would try and cover all of that up so I'd be taken seriously. And bit by bit, I was losing myself. The part of me that they hired because of my vivaciousness started to be eroded, and I think that was like it's a real sadness that I have for that woman in her 20s. Because I
Yeah,
think
you should have boobs out and, you know, just enjoying that feminine form. I can hear that. I can hear that. I was the opposite. I went full force. Once I kind of got my mojo, I went, but I wasn't in a, you know, yeah, I didn't have a family. So I think that would have shifted me had I have had a family, perhaps at that point. But I definitely went down the whole like hard rock and roll, party girl, but professional, you know.
oh, we were in different industries. I was in the
Like,
energy sector. I would not have washed.
I wanted everyone to know that I had my shit together though. Like, I was very, very like, take me seriously. But I would be going into work in a PVC skirt, and God knows what I had on the top. You know, like I just it's interesting for me because I've done work on this personally. You know, when you are sexualized from a young age and you're curvy and people talk about your body, something happens at a certain point, I think, in our lives as women where we start to then move towards it because it's what we know. And actually, for me, it was like, well, I may as well take ownership of this body because I'm going to get the comments and things anyway. So I may as well have the PVC skirt on, and I may as well, if I want to go out in a corset, I'll wear a corset. So I wore a lot of corsets. So I amped it up, was like, it's mine, I'm going to own it, and I became much more sexualized than what maybe I really even wanted, to be honest. So I've had to heal that part of me in a different way to you. It sounds like you wanted a bit more of that, and perhaps I needed a little bit less, but either way, that's how I showed up. And I was quite fearless in some ways. Once I got over my insecurities, I didn't really look back. And I'm quite happy about that in some ways as well.
I'd also like to say to any listeners that part of being in your 20s is all about trying to find out who you are. And we often say that's part of being, excuse me, part of being a teenager. But no, that's about detaching yourself from your family and finding your way as an independent person. Whereas during your 20s, it's absolutely about finding your place in the world. Who am I? What's my tribe? Where do I fit in? And so it's completely normal to feel the pressure to change the way you look, the way you speak, until you find it like, this feels like me. Unfortunately, you tend to like chip away at actually your true self, just to fit in. And by the time you get to our age, we are actually quite fearless in the sense that we are unapologetically trying to be ourselves, and we care less about other people because we have our tribe, we have our units at that stage who are supporting and love us anyway, and so we feel that we can be ourselves. And I think that's something that I really love about being the age that I am now. And my perimenopause started around 42, and I've got images of me going into COVID where I'd basically done like 2 or 3 years of Slimming World, and I looked amazing. I would have, well, I probably wouldn't have worn the bikini, but it was like I had a bikini body. And I look at myself now and like, oh wow. And then I look at myself today and I've got a pot, I've got the Menno belly, and I see all of like these images coming on saying, get rid of your Menno belly, da da da. And I'm like, actually, no, it's just a life stage I'm going through. I'm not going to fight somebody else's view of what a woman of my age should look like. I'm just going to be me, and I wear clothes that accentuate my best bits that I feel really good in. And the number of times I get compliments because I'm not constantly fidgeting with my clothes and worrying about what I look like, I just turn up and I'm free. And I think that's something I really love about being this age. What about you?
Well, it's liberating, isn't it? Because all of a sudden you're not doing it to impress anybody else. It's just about how you feel on the inside. And I can show up, showing my flaws, the aging process and all of that. I can do that, and I can love myself for that. This is where I've got to. This is my breakthrough. I can also cover the roots, put makeup on to cover up my like menopausal skin. I can also do that and love myself. And when I look in the mirror, I make a regular, consistent choice to look into my eyes and go, I love you. And if I'm doing anything, sometimes I'll go onto Zoom if I'm at my desk, and I'll look in my eyes and I'll just say, yeah, I love you, and I might do it on my phone sometimes. And then I'll come out of the Zoom because I don't need to be on Zoom, and it's little things like that make me go, I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm doing all right. No, my body's not the same, but I'd never do a diet ever again. I quit diets when I became a mum. As soon as I got into the pregnancy thing, had a baby, I was like, I'm never doing a diet ever again. It is so insidious what I'm trying to do. But I'd lived my whole life through diet cultures, really. And so I'm celebrating that because I'm just like, my body's amazing. I've done so much with this body and it's been through so much. And I love my body for all of that. Much more important to me than the size that I'm in or any of those things. I feel like my body actually looks happier in a way than when I look back at some of the pictures. Sometimes I think, oh wow, I can see the dissatisfaction, and the harshness, because that's how I live my life, and that's how I was on the inside. Whereas now I'm much more accepting and kind. And it's interesting because I was thinking to myself, what is it about this life stage? And I nearly said to myself, I care less. That's actually not true. I actually care more. I care more now than I've ever cared before. And I'm compelled to speak up more than I've ever been before. And that's the bit that I want to celebrate about getting older. So, because it can be like, I don't care what people think of me. No, I do care, but I
Yeah.
really care about the bigger picture, and I really care about where we're going in society, and I really care about, the work we're doing and evolving cultures in business so that it is much more balanced. I care about that so incredibly much that it makes me want to weep. And I'm celebrating that.
One of the other things that I am hugely caring about is something that I probably didn't have in my 20s, maybe my early 30s, and that is older women who are my biggest champions. And I
Yeah.
think I don't know what it was, but I suspect it was a bit of fear, a bit of competition. Because in the early noughties we still had this rhetoric that it was women were bitches and we had to look out for number one. And I think things are changing now, and we're realizing that there is a sisterhood, and there is nothing more wonderful for me to go and champion another sister coming up, whether she's in her 20s or 30s, and whether it's promoting something on social media or going to an opening event that they're doing, or just giving them that champion and saying this is great work. And that's something that I absolutely love about this stage of life. But equally, I'm doing it for those older women as well, the ones who I'm looking at their work and what they're doing out in the world, and I'm like, you're amazing, because now they are being more vocal and more seen. And so I'm getting my role models all over again. So
Yeah.
this is something that I'm really loving about my age now. I can mentor and equally learn from the younger ones coming behind, but I've still got a whole load of role models that I still aspire to be like.
I think, yeah, absolutely. And that's really important for all of us to have, women around you go, because there's a lot of the women that I coach, I look at them and I'm like, wow. And when I first started, it used to terrify me because I would be like going into the room as a coach with these incredible women at the very top. And I was quite intimidated, if I'm being honest. And then I got over myself. As soon as I got into the coaching space, I got over myself. And then, now I just don't even think about these things. Like I go there as an equal, we do important work and we meet each other where we are and all of that. So that's a huge shift for me as I've got older, where I'm like, no, I'm here and let's do the work, let's go, regardless of someone's position or rank. That stuff doesn't affect me anymore at all. So as I'm talking, I'm realizing that's quite a big shift because it wasn't like that 8 years ago. Now it is. So there's something about that sort of meeting other women where they actually are looking at their brilliance and understanding that we're brilliant too. And then that's when the magic can really, really happen, because there's no inequality happening. There's no I'm better than you, or you're better than me, or you've reached higher. It kind of cuts all that crap out. We don't really need any of that, to be honest. What we need is just a mutual respect that goes two ways in relationships, and then we can do the work. So yeah, I feel like as women, the things I do here that break my heart is things like, I don't know if I've got any more in me, or this might be the last, or and this is from the older generation, or I don't know if I'm employable anymore. They're comments that I hear and have heard a lot of. And it really breaks my heart because these are really amazing, established, trailblazing, fantastic. They can have what they want in a way. Like they've still got the longevity, but it's the fear that comes underneath from within. Maybe we'll get to that point one day, Lucy, where we're saying that as well, and we're saying it out
Yeah.
loud to women. And I'm like, you can create whatever you want, and you are creating whatever you want. But I feel like there's just something that sort of starts to seep in. There's been a lot of mass redundancies and restructures around the world. We've got AI coming in. I think these are all like genuine fears and pressures and concerns that women have. And it's really important to talk about it, because I always remind them of who they are, what they've done. And we start to look at, what does success even really mean? And what are the wins for you? What are the real wins? And when you break it down, the wins are immense. So those are the conversations that I think we need to be really, really careful of. And
I agree. And one of my role models is Edith Eger. And she didn't actually start practicing as a psychotherapist until her mid 40s. And she'd been in a completely different career up until that point. And it wasn't until she was in her 70s that she started writing books about her work, but also her life experience. And that is when she became visible and started impacting the lives of the world. And I just look at her, and I think she's in her 90s now, and I just think, wow, it took her till she was in her 40s to find her true path, and it took her until she was in her 70s to actually get her message out there into the world. There's plenty of time for all of us, but I also have a lot of friends who are in their late 50s, early 60s, who, like you say, have been made redundant or have needed to leave the organisation for whatever reasons. And they are not getting the jobs, they're not being seen. Their applications are just going, under the radar. Whereas, women in their, 30s, maybe early 40s are still getting the offers because there's something about midlife being the prime.
Yeah.
And then once you pass that midlife point, well, you're too old now. And I think it happens for men and women,
Yeah.
but particularly women, especially in the more senior roles. And it's devastating. And like the women that I know who are in those life stages, they are still doing loads of work acting as governors or NEDs on the board, and they're giving their time freely, and they are welcome because they've got so much talent and brilliance, but they're
Yeah.
not being paid for it, and that's just wrong.
Agreed. We have to feel like we're valued, and I think value comes into many different areas. But for me, if the money's not right, it's not right, because there's something that sits on the inside that's about, we live in a world where money is a language, and so we need to be part of that language and having those languages and those conversations. It's fundamental. I learned that very early on in my coaching career, and it's stuck with me ever since. And it doesn't mean that I don't do things for free, because I really do. And the things I do for free, I'm really happy to do for free. But I also need to get paid for the other things and get paid well. And it's as simple as that. We can trade, but not at our expense. That's where it takes me. What message would you give to women who feel invisible or not enough because of their age?
It's probably slightly different advice depending on the age that they are, because there is, yeah, they're at different life stages, so they might want something slightly different. For the younger ones, what I would absolutely say is go find a champion, whether it's a coach, a best friend, a mentor at work, or in a completely different environment. But I know what worked for me is having somebody champion me when I had those self doubts or gave me some of their wisdom. So, yeah, for the younger generation, you're not alone in this. Don't try and figure it out on your own. Get somebody who is willing to back you. And if you need to go and pay them to do it, as like, in coaching or whatever, go get it. It will absolutely, catapult your life. For those who are slightly of the older age, so I'm saying midlife plus, oh girl, you're only just getting started. This is a time to actually go back and do a bit of a review on all of your skills, all of your passions, all of your brilliance, and just remember you are literally just getting going, but the way that you were going before might be different. So turning up to work in a 9 to 5 office, doing that daily commute, that might be just too exhausting. But you can still do your powerful, amazing work. You might just need to redirect. That's probably the best advice I would give.
Yeah, I do think that things go in cycles as well. I do. There's people sort of talk about the 7-year cycle. Sometimes it's more than that. But I do feel like we're on this sort of secular thing, and there's times when we are reaping things, times when we are sowing, putting the seeds in, and times when we're cultivating, and it does shift. And I can look back on my career and think I've definitely had there's been pivotal years in my career, pivotal moments, pivotal jobs where I've gone, wow, that was me in my absolute power. It's happened to me. I think I would say like now is that period that I'm in. And then I've had it in my own corporate jobs in 2 different careers where, I was there for like 6 years at a time. And wow, 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 wow. And I still look back and go, unbelievable, like amazing, like just can't quite believe. And then I've had other years that have just felt like treading water, can't quite find it fully, but still doing good stuff, And then other years where it's been like, this is diabolical, like nothing's coming together for me, and this one's in. I've tried looking back, I can go, there's, you know, times when I've tried to make things work. Everything I've tried, nothing's working, nothing's coming together. And those were the years when I needed space and time to do deep healing. There was always a reason for it. Like, none of it was like just a random year. So I can look back through the secular journey of my life and my career and go, oh yeah, I can see where I was. I can see what was happening. I can see why that happened. And it makes a lot of sense to me. So I think we just need to remember that we go through these cycles, and if things start to fall apart, it's because there's something else that's coming through, but you can't see it yet. So we're on that journey of like letting go of that, which is always hard for us, into sometimes a bit more space and time before we can actually reach for the next thing. And sometimes it comes in immediately and we're off, but it doesn't always. And if that is happening where it's not coming together, and I have a lot of women in my life who I know, who I've worked with before, who are having awful times, everything, and like, I don't mean awful, everything's breaking, nothing's working, and I've been there myself, so I'm like, I know what you're talking about. You will find yourself in a different place, but I don't know how long it's going to take for you, because I can't tell you that, but trust the process of your own life and the devastation that comes in sometimes, and it is truly devastating, and know that you will arrive somewhere else, you know, and you'll be able to look back and understand it. So that's what's coming through for me. Just to trust yourself in your journey.
I can't remember where I read this or heard it, but whoever it was said age is all relative. And you know, when you are in primary school, if your birthday is in September, you are the oldest in your year group. By the time you get to your 20s, you're old compared to a year 6 child, but you're really young to a 90-year-old.
Yeah.
It is all relative depending on the circles that you keep. And so you're never too old, you're never too young. You are exactly who you are supposed to be and where you are meant to be at that time. Your story, your voice, your presence, they matter now. So it's not about, you know, when you look different, or whether you're a size 8 or a size 16, or when you feel ready for something, or reaching some imaginary goal, or always thinking you're a year ahead of your age. Your time is now. So if today's conversation has sparked something within inside of you, got you curious, we'd love to hear. You can email us at sayitssisterpodcasters@gmail.com. That's it. Or you can just head over to our Facebook or our Instagram pages, where you can just message us or just post, because we really want to break this age-old narrative together and build something different, based on something truer and realer in its place. So until next time, please like, follow, comment on the podcast to help us get to more listeners. And until then, keep showing up powerfully, fully, and just as you are. So thanks for listening, and we can't wait to welcome you next time.
Until then, use your voice, journal, speak, or sing out loud. However you do it, we hope you join us in
Saying It's Sister.